Okay, here we are in Blender, and we are going to start with the blockout because it's very important to start with the blockout, because whenever you have the scale and everything just corrected, it would be a lot easier to decide on what you're going to create. Okay, and here's the human scale reference that I have. It's roughly about a bit close to 2 meters if I bring in the default cube, which is 2 meters. You can see that it's roughly about the scale of 2 meters. And that is the scale that we're going to use, and that is to decide how the scale of the object is going to be. So let's take a look at references. Here's the reference board that I gathered. There are some of these images that are very important for the composition. For example, so this is the overall look that we're going for. We are going to create something like this, a round kind of, well, like so, but the stones are going to be jagged and rough. Okay, and then there's going to be a roof, and that roof is going to be something like this one, which has some shingles. But since it's going to be old and really belonging to past times, there's going to be a lot of irregularities placed in there. And for the roof, it's going to be something like this. And its stones are going to be jagged like so. And the overall composition is going to be something like this. It's going to be the stone piece. There's going to be a pavement that is going to be stone. We are going to have a couple of pillars holding this together. And then something like this, a structure and a rope, and that rope may be maybe, for example, a rope or a chain. Okay, and now let's take a look at the reference that I have for these stones. They're going to be something like this, with some jagged stones stacked up like so, and then a bit of mortar or cement holding them together. It's going to be something like this. The main one that I have in mind is something like this. And these are for guide on how these stones are going to look like. Okay, then we are going to have a rope, and that rope is going to be something like this. For example, you see it has the bucket connected to it. We might create the bucket or we might not, because we create the wood and you can use the same approach and create the bucket yourself. But for now, let's worry about wood. And the wood, you see, is going to be something very rough. And these are the references that we have for the wood. Because it's going to be something belonging to old ages, we need to make sure that it's rough enough. And then for shingles, I have this one in mind, although it's not going to be something like this, but a bit close. And if I combine it, for example, with such a look, it would be a great idea. And we are going to be creating that for game environments. And we're going to make sure that the optimization is there as well. For example, in case of creating these shingles like so, I'm not going to create maybe 100 shingles and sculpt them individually. That will take a lot of time and would waste a lot of resources, for example, texture, geometry, whatever. And then we are going to create, for example, if we have 100 shingles in here, we're going to create maybe 4 or 5 and then blend them together in a natural way to really make sure that the textile density is going to be much better, and then it's going to be high resolution as well. So for the stones as well, it's going to be the same thing. Let me bring this, for example, if this is composed of 100 stones, we're not going to create them individually because that would take a lot of time and really a lot of texture memory and a lot of really unique results that we are going to create. We are going to create maybe 4 or 5 stones and then blend them together. And then later on, if we saw that there's a repetition, we will sculpt over those. So it would be much easier to sculpt 100 stones in a way that, for example, we create 5 stones and bring them to 70-80% of completion, and then duplicate them and continue from there instead of creating 100 stones from scratch. Okay, here is what we need to know. And now let's start creating by first defining the borders. I'm going to create something like this. Of course, it's going to be round. I'm not going to give it a shape or anything. It's going to be round. So let's bring in a cylinder, and we're comparing that against the scale of this human in here. Okay, now let me bring in this. It's 2 meters. Let's go for 4 meters by 4 meters. No, this is too much. Let's go for 3 by 3. And let's see if the player is able to walk on this. Okay, a scale of 3 is good. And of course, there's going to be a bad geometry in here. Do not worry, we are going to fix that in ZBrush. So it's going to be, let me see, 3 meters by 3 meters, and the height is now 10 centimeters. I do not want it. Let's go for 0.2, and 0.2 in meters equals 20 centimeters. Okay, now let's shade smooth for the look of it, and then duplicate and bring it up. I want it to have something like a staircase effect. And then bring this to here. And then on top of this is going to be our main well placed, this one. So let me bring in a cube and then scale this cube to a place that we see fit. And it's going to be placed along center. And one of these add-ons that I provided the link to you is the interactive tool. And since this is not a beginner tutorial, you can really spend time and see what it looks like. So we created a shortcut for quick origin and edit origin. So the quick origin has been set to Alt S, and Alt S, if you remember, was the reset scale. I just removed that and set that to quick origin. So whenever I'm selecting, for example, this edge and Alt S, you see it brings the pivot to here. If I place Alt S in here, it's going to bring that to the center. If I select this face, Alt S, it's going to bring the pivot to the center of this face. So that is this quick origin that belongs to the interactive tools. So I place the pivot there, and now if I scale along Z, we are getting, no, let's go for Z only. Now we are getting a sense of a scale of how this is going to be. So now let's go for these two as well. Let's make sure that the foundation is strong enough. Okay, now I'm going to go for a mirror. So let's go to modifiers and look for mirror. And it's going to be along X. So let's select this one as the mirror object. Okay. So now whatever change we do on this is going to be duplicated to that side as well. So let me select this and try to scale that a bit. Now you see the changes are getting reflected there as well, because this is a mirror and I haven't collapsed the modifier. So let's see, looks like it could be like so. And then for the main round piece in here, let me duplicate this, scale, and then let's first place the pivot in here, bring it up, okay, and then scale it in Z. So now I believe that if I take this and bring it closer to here, and if I compare that to the scale of the human, let's bring that, okay, and then scale that a bit to match the proportions. So now I'm saying that it's going to be all right. Now let's do something. If I take this and bring it to the mix so that, for example, later on we create something like this, that the stones really hold this wood together, then it's going to be a lot better. So now we are in a phase that we are testing the ideas. Now for this, we are going to make sure that we have this inside piece corrected as well. So let's extrude and scale to the side on the size of the stones. Okay, I'm liking that. And of course, if you want, you can go for different proportions. Now let me take this and scale that like so, and then make sure that it has a foundation as well. So let me create a vertex in here and then extrude this along normal. Let me take this, extrude along normals, okay, so that the wood has a bit of foundation as well. Okay, let me take these rows of vertices, bring that to here, and then create another and bring and then extrude this along normal as well. So do not worry, we might have some geometry problems in here. Let's go into edit mode, and if the geometry was problematic, we will return back and try to fix it. Or it doesn't need fixing as well, because it's going to be dynameshed in ZBrush, and that is going to solve a lot of those geometrical issues as well. So now I decided to take this one and bring that down in Z a bit, because I'm going to create a roof, and that roof is going to have these pieces like so. So let's decide on how that is going to be. I'm really liking this one. You see, there's a vertical piece of wood, and then this one. Let's try to create something like that. Okay, let's first take this and duplicate, separate by selection. Okay, now let's bring the pivot in here and then try to extrude that and then rescale it so that it's something like a metal piece, or basically whatever that we can place in here to hold the stones together. Okay, let's duplicate and bring it to top, and then make sure that it has roughly about the same scale as the foundation wood. Okay, now I'm going to create this wooden piece in here, these shingles. But before that, we need to make sure that we have a strong foundation for it. So now let me take this one, duplicate, rotate 90 degrees to make sure that it's perpendicular around the base. And now I'm going to create another mirror. Let's search for mirror, and this time it's going to be along Y. And it's going to be a long way because I haven't really set the transformation reset there. Of course, if I set the rotation to be changed, it might give us a different result. So now let's go for Y, the other one, and let's see. Okay, it's going to be in Z because we didn't set this one to be resetted. So if I reset that by resetting this scale, if I press Y, now it's going to be corrected. Okay, now I'm saying that there's too much distance in here. It's too long because we are going to create something like this triangular piece there. And if I rotate like maybe 45 degrees and bring it to here, and then duplicate it to the other side. Let me create another mirror. Let's see. Let's set the pivot to be this one. Okay. Now I'm saying that this one is too much. So let's first rescale and then rescale this in Z and take these triangular pieces and bring them to fit that scale. Okay, now very basic blockout done, but let's do something. I'm going to duplicate these and then rotate them like maybe 35 degrees, or let's go for 10 more. Let's go for, now it's 45 degrees, and then try to scale that based on local. So from global to local so that it just rescales along that. Okay, but we need to bring that and take this one, rescale. Okay, I want that to have a purpose so that it's not floating randomly in the composition. I want that, for example, later on to carve some information in here. So let's scale that in Z to bring it to here, and then another mirror. Okay, this one, let's go for the other direction. Let's set the pivot to be this one. Okay, correct. Now we are deciding on really the rough blockout. Later on, we will fix these issues. For example, something like this that has some problems. Let me see. So now let's do something. I'm going to pick this one and then rescale. But before that, take this, Shift D to duplicate, P, separate by selection so that we have this one in place. And now apply all of these modifiers. Remove that, bring this to the center. Okay, and then scale along X. Okay, now you see this is going to be something like a blockout of the piece that we are going to create. So now in this center as well, let's do something. I'm going to scale that in Y and then create a cylindrical piece in here. So I'm going to bring the pivot to here. So pivot to geometry. Okay. I'm going to bring this world center to here. So to select it, okay, now if I bring anything, for example, a cylinder, it's going to be spawned in here. Perfect. Let me rescale, and this is going to be, so now let me take this and bring that to the center, and I'm going to scale that just a bit. I'm taking a look at this and comparing that. So let's reset the rotation and scale that along X, like so. Shade smooth. And then a bit of more scaling. But before that, let me take this one and just extrude. And now take this and make sure that we are selecting everything, or extrude along normals. And then rescale like so. I want to make sure that it doesn't go beyond these borders. Okay, now let's use the mirror to bring that to the other side. Take this face and in X, bring it to 0. Or let's use mirror, it's going to be fixing those issues. And make sure that we set the pivot to be around this one. Okay. And then we are going to have this kind of a wheel that people use to bring the bucket up from the well. Okay, again, because the pivot is in here, the origin, I'm going to bring in a cylinder, rotate that 90 degrees. And bring it to here. Apply anything, shade smooth. And this is going to be the handle. Okay, but do not worry, we are going to refine all of these later on. For now, it's only making sure that the ideas are going to be fine. For example, now I decided that I want to make this one, rescale this one a bit, because whenever I see, I'm saying that it needs a bit of rescaling. Okay, and then this one as well. Like so. So let's see if I'm going to place this one to here. No, it's going to be too repetitive. And you see the geometry is not correct at all. Do not worry, we are going to take care of that. And then you see, whenever we're taking a look, there are some inner wood pieces in here as well. For example, these vertical ones, we could create them, or we could duplicate the same pieces when we sculpted them and duplicate them to here, because you see they're not going to be seen, so creating them would be a waste of resources. So we will see what we're going to do later. For now, it's only thinking about constructing the good blockout. So now I see that there's a vertical wood in here as well, this one. So again, I'm going to take the same thing, rotate. Let me rotate 90 degrees and just rescale that and place it here. Okay, do not worry, later on we are going to create connections for these so that they look more natural. But for now, it's only a matter of really guessing the big shapes and see what we are going to create. Okay, now let me take these vertices and just collapse. We can press M and collapse. Okay. Of course, I should have first created an inset and then take these two, M, collapse, like so. And then, but before that, let me bring that to here and create some edges around that. So let's do something. I'm going to select whatever I have here. So now I'm just going to create one side and then duplicate it to the other side. But first, let me delete this half as well. Okay, now I'm going to just take these two, join, and then delete this one as well. So now, by creating half of it or 1/4, we are able to duplicate it over to the other side many times and create what we need. So let me just take all of these, delete, take this two as well, or let's bring the knife tool and bring that. So now we have 1/4, and when we made sure that it's all right, we will mirror that to create other halves. Okay, now let me do something. I'm going to leave one. Of course, I'm going to leave these to be because there's a silhouette in here. And then let me remove these ones, leave one, or leave two, and remove. Okay, now we have something like that. We do not need to be exactly the same. We just need to be something that looks all right. So let's bring in the mirror. Okay, and then it's going to be alongside Y. Perfect. And now another mirror. This time it's going to be along Z. Okay, perfect. Now we have this side created, and we could even try to remove some of these. For example, let me take this one and remove and bring that. Okay, if this is something that you want, you can keep it, but I see that in here we have 4 planks, and in here you see the planks are square. But in here, you see that the planks get thinner as they get to here. So let me remove this half and this half and remove what we have here in the center. Okay, that's a design choice. You could leave it or you could just okay. Now another, let's mirror alongside Y. Another mirror, this one along Z. Okay, another one. Okay, perfect. Now we have this side created. Let's remove all of them. And then take these, go to loop tools, and there should be a bridge option. Perfect. And now this one as well, loop tools, bridge. And if you do not have loop tools, you can go edit, preferences, and in add-ons, just search for loop tools, activate it, and you're going to get the loop tools activated for yourself. Okay, now there's a silhouette in here, but we need to scale that along X just a bit. Okay, and then what we could do is just placing some squares in here. So let me bring in a cube, scale that. Let's rotate that 35 degrees. Make sure that your pivot is set to local. And then all you need to do is placing that here. So this is something that looks okay. And then take, rotate 90 degrees. And I'm just looking to see if I like this design or not. So let's do something. Let's take these. And I'm going to remove that and scale this more. And duplicate 90 degrees. And just take a look because I do not want that to be so pronounced. So and then let's rescale this along to match with this here. So let's take everything, merge by distance. Okay, it's all right. Now let's take these inset, press I once more to make sure that it's one inset. So that all of them get insetted just like the same. Okay, now let's do something. Let's take this, bring that to here. And maybe we could create some handles for here. So let me take this. I'm going to take this line, bring my origin to here, to this edge, and then create a cylinder that is going to be rescaled a lot to create something like a handle that people can get and try to basically rotate this to get the water and bucket and those kind of maneuvers. So let's see if I can duplicate it to here. Okay, I'm going to leave that be like so. Now, it's enough for this lesson. I'm going to pause, and in the next one we will go and try to refine this even more and maybe create shingles, block out for them, and see what is going on there. Okay, see you in the next one.